Hi, this is Russell Scabetti with another video blog for thebusinessofsports.com. Today, my topic that I'm going to talk about is mobile devices and how they're affecting sports business, discussing what tactics teams and leagues should consider and should try when exploring this new space. I say new space, I mean mobile devices, let's face it, especially mobile phones, smartphones have been around now for a few years. They're becoming a more common part of a sports fan's experience. You always hear teams and leagues talking about the second screen. So fans at home watching television, they usually have a laptop or a mobile device with them and being able to engage them on both screens. You'll also hear about that in stadiums, in live sporting events. People are tweeting and sending messages and watching video replays, things along those lines on their iPhone or their BlackBerry or whatever particular mobile device they're using. For me, for example, I happen to have a BlackBerry, mostly work-related, but this is my primary smartphone device. And I also, luckily, about a month or so ago, got an iPad, which is a whole lot of fun. I'm going to talk about some of the applications on here and some thoughts specifically on this device in a minute. So, knowing that these devices are out there, teams are actively trying to figure out how they're going to have a presence on the device. At a real basic level, most teams develop a standard application that provides news, statistics, maybe a little bit of extra content that the team fan can pull up on the device. The problem is these devices are getting so good that there's nothing about this information on the application that's different than them just going to a browser and looking at the team's website or going and viewing their typical sports news sources. So that's really not enough. So teams need to get more creative and think outside the box in terms of how they're going to engage in a unique way that is different than all the other sources, the typical ways that a fan can get information. Looking at a couple of iPad apps specifically, I pretty much just went nuts and tried to download everything sports related that I can find. So some of my favorite ones are, and this is probably not going to show well, out here Major League Baseball has done, to me, one of the best jobs. Their MLB at Bat application on the iPad has been incredible in terms of integrating with MLB TV, updates from all of the games, integrating news, game tracking, video, audio feeds all into one app. The app has a little bit of advertising in it, so they generate revenue that way, and it's a subscription base, so $15 for the whole season, or recently, towards the end of the season, they discounted it. And it also probably encourages more subscribers to MLB.TV since you can watch live. This has been by far my favorite app for the iPad so far. But you'll see everyone's trying to figure out what they want to do. We've got ESPN Score Center, CBS Sports recently released a really nice football app. Yahoo has their fantasy sports apps. Yahoo also released Sportacular, which is their competitor to ESPN's news. NHL had a league application that they're going to release a new version of shortly. Sunday Night Football All Access, Notre Dame Central, those are NBC sports apps. And then I had to take a look at it. Ocho Cinco has his own iPad app. Not quite sure how much this really does for him. It does update a little bit. It's more little interviews with him, little video clips. I love the idea of how much he brands himself and how he's trying to get out there and really engage with fans. And this is another way to do it for free. And, I'm sure there was just a minimal cost to develop the application. Don't know if more athletes will go down that road. I think it's probably a better platform for teams and leagues, but it's creative. Les Miles also had an app, which I guess is sort of a recruiting, inspirational app, information about LSU sports, his coaching philosophy. So these are all interesting tactics, and these are all things that you can do. One of the unique challenges, though, that people often overlook is what platform is a team and league really going to primarily support? Because there are costs in developing applications for iPhone and iPads and BlackBerries and Android and all these different smartphone platforms, Palm even. So where does a team or league or sports entity direct their efforts? And everyone thinks the initial reaction is, well, you gotta be on the biggest platforms. Ironically, BlackBerry, I believe, is still the biggest platform, but because of the way it's designed, it's really not the most interactive in terms of the way like an iPhone or an Android is. So most teams direct their efforts there because it's a cooler application. You can do a lot more than what you might be able to do on a BlackBerry. However, one thing that a lot of people forget about is sponsors. So let's say Verizon is a huge sponsor of yours. So it doesn't make sense for a team to develop an iPhone app because they probably can't promote it. iPhone's an AT&T service. If you're Verizon is a major sponsor of yours, there could easily be language that prevents the team from developing and promoting an iPhone app, or vice versa. If you have an AT&T sponsorship, then great, you get on the iPhone, do that. But BlackBerry users might not be able to have the same type of application, on their device. So it's something that teams need to work around, something teams need to consider when they're negotiating their sponsorships, to try to not have a restriction that could potentially impact how they interact with fans on their mobile devices. That's all I really have for today. I'm still playing around with the iPad, trying to figure out more fun sports apps and see how teams are doing it. One other thing I almost forgot. Now BlackBerries and iPhone, simple. Everyone has them. It's a cell phone. So all teams are expecting the fans in their stadiums to have one of these. But what do you do with this? I mean, iPads are selling really, really fast right now. They're being very popular. Other companies are coming out with their own forms of a tablet device. But then you take a look at a team like the Yankees. The Yankees actually banned iPads from the stadium because they believe that it fell under their laptop policy, and they don't allow computers into the stadium. But they'll allow an iTouch or an iPhone. So where is the line? I mean, iPad's still very portable, and because of the interface and the screen, you actually can do a lot more with it than I believe than you can with an iPhone. And I believe over the next year or two, as they continue to sell at a faster rate, teams are going to have to open up their policies and realize that people want more than just watching the game. Tickets are so expensive nowadays. If someone's going to commit to going out to a game, you need to give more value than just what you're putting on the field. So knowing that your fans have iPhones and Androids and iPads, you need to be more open-minded and letting them into the building with them, figuring out new ways to engage with them as part of the game experience. One example is a company I've heard about called YinzCam, which has applications that let fans in the arena watch in videos and interact with replay and other video streams. There's also a company called FanVision TV that, instead of putting it on the iPhone or iPad, will actually let you have a separate device that, again, taps into different unique television streams while you're tailgating or in the stadium watching a replay, check up on your fantasy team stats. So the teams are starting to get there, and they're starting to engage on these platforms in and out of the arena. I think this is going to be a bigger focal point in the coming seasons, and it'll be interesting to see what new tactics teams, leagues, sports media entities take to engage with their fans this way. Thank you again for watching. Keep reading the blog, and take care. This is Russell Scabetti from the Business of Sports.